for, these companies weren't really inclined to pay me that day. And so I was carrying my receivables, my employment, and that kind of thing. And so I needed to find a source that would provide me a little bit more capital to carry me through that third year. And I was very fortunate to partner with an organization that's here today, and I'll plug them because I think they're very worth talking to. It's called Working Solutions. They're a micro-lending program, and I was in lending for 20 years prior to meeting them. And my lesson in this relationship was don't be stubborn in your old habits. I was the guy who sat behind the desk and said, nope, sorry, we're in business long enough. Nope, you don't have the cash flow coverage. Nope, sorry, we don't have the receivables. We only have one source of repayment. And I never thought that someone would give me money because I had too much information in my head. So I happened to log onto my computer one day, saw this email through the small business group of City Hall, and it said this company was giving microloans to companies. I'm like, I need a microloan. And within 2 weeks, I went through the application process, was approved. And the thing that I would say about this more than anything, aside from the money, was they held me accountable in a lot of ways. My financials are monitored with a relationship that I have now on a 6-month basis. But it makes me stay on top of my numbers. I know my numbers, and it makes a big difference in food services. If you don't know your food cost, or if you don't know your payroll cost, or if you don't know your waste costs, you're probably not going to be in business very long. They've taught me to hold myself accountable from a numbers standpoint, and I really enjoy that relationship. They invited me here to this event, so I would say leverage the community, leverage your small business association groups, the EDC, even go to City Hall and talk to the Small Business Administration group that they have there. Those are the agencies that one may work for you, one may not work for you, two may work for you, but find a partnership where you actually, it's a lonely place when you're trying to do what you're trying to do. And find a partnership that you can to leverage and just, get as much information as you can from the folks and as help as you can, and then just stick with your gut and go for it.
That's such a perfect transition. So one of my notes was, I know that you can feel very, very alone and tremendously challenged and vulnerable when you start your own business. And I can tell you that you're not alone. You actually, if you have started your business, you've joined a pretty huge community. There are 28 million American small businesses. So you're not alone. And as Joe was saying, reach out to that community. That community is here to help you. And they do amazing things by just sharing and talking and networking. I was talking to Warren earlier. When I founded BPE, one slight problem. I had never been a consultant. I had founded a consulting company, so no one knew me as a consultant. They knew me as smart, and I used to be a truck driver, so I was pretty talented, but they didn't think of me as a consultant. So when they'd have an opportunity where I could fulfill that need, they wouldn't think of me. They'd think of KPMG and Pricewaterhouse and all these big, huge companies. And so what I learned is to use my network. So I signed up to be the president of Women in International Trade. And I led that trade organization for 5 years. And I taught people how to do importing and exporting, just what my business was, and I gave it to the community. And as a result, when those projects would come across their desk, they began to think of me, which was wonderful. Also a really fun one. I think big, and it all comes back to my business plan. Believe it or not, I update my business plan every year. Every strategy session my team and I have, we have the business plan on the table, and we're looking at it, and we're measuring, and we're doing everything we can. And so one year, this was probably 3 years ago, we'd just come out of a strategy session, and I go to this huge conference. Of course, I'm on the board of that as well, the American Association of Exporters and Importers. And KPMG walks up. Now these guys, wherever you travel, you generally land in a big city, and there's a big building that's 7 stories tall, and it says KPMG on it, and I'm a 6-person firm, right? And they're winning business, they're taking business out from under me. So I walk up, I see the head of the KPMG consulting practice, and I said, Todd, how's it going? He says, it's going great, how's it going, Ben? And I said, you know what, we just finished a week-long strategy session. It was in Barcelona, Spain. We had a really nice time. And he's like jealous. He's like, you got to take me with you next time. I said, well, you actually might get that opportunity because we were working on the business plan. And he said, oh really, what's your strategy? I said, we're buying you. And then the head of Deloitte Consulting came up and said, hey Todd, how you doing? Hey Beth, making any money? And it's like, Todd interrupted, didn't let me say a word. He says, yeah, she's buying us. I didn't have to say a thing. I just hung out next to Todd the entire 3-day conference. And by the end of that 3-day conference, I learned the next week Deloitte held an emergency meeting trying to figure out how BPE could buy KPMG and how were they going to deal with it. Not a marketing strategy on my board, but it worked really well. And these people spent a whole year trying to figure out how to deflect me. As a result, every deal they went into, they asked, are you talking to BPE? Are you doing this? How's BPE approaching this? And my name got spread by my competition. It was fabulous. We haven't bought them yet. But we're buying them every year that we plan on. So the network is key. And giving is key. And I really, really want to reinforce that. So when I took the Ren Center course, it is a 14-week business planning class. You go 2 nights a week, 3 hours a night. It's grueling, but you basically end up with a business plan at the end of it. And as I was going through that class, I was building a network of people that were helping me to grow my business. And just there was 29 people in my class, having 29 people who knew more about my business than my family did. My mom still doesn't know what I do. But just having that network of people. And literally this morning I got an email from one of them. She now lives in Amsterdam and is teaching business planning in Amsterdam. And so it's a great community. Work on your business plan. Another thing I just want to talk about, setting your business plan and being being flexible. I set big goals, big, hairy, audacious goals. So being a consultant for the first time and not having any track record, I set my first goal as I need a client within 6 months. So I set that down and everybody would ask, how are you doing? And I'd say, I'm tracking the plan. I didn't have to say, I don't have a client yet. For the first 6 months, I was tracking to my business plan and I was a success. I was a raving success, even though I didn't have a client. And on the 5th month, on the 20th day, I get a call from, it was actually a marble company. They imported marble from Italy. And this guy calls and he says, I've got stuff stuck at the border, can you help me clear it? And so I did, and guess what? 6 months into my business, I had met my first big, hairy, audacious goal, and I was a huge success. Guess what? He never paid me. Nobody knew that. I met my goal. So it's really important to track and to measure and to keep up to your goals, but also when we decided to expand into a training product. Every time you learn how to cross the border, you should teach people how to do it. That training product didn't make any money, so we've adjusted and we've taken that product off the market. But measure yourself. Look at your books. Make sure that you're profitable in the businesses that you're offering. And I'm a firm believer that business plan will guide you for your whole life, the life of your business, no matter what you choose to do with it.
You like that, the passing process here? Okay, now I'm going to tell you a couple things I learned. I get so excited to hear these people. These are new friends that I've had before that are in business. It's such an exciting story to hear, exciting to hear them, because there's one thing that is consistently said with a small business owner, that word persistence. If I were to ask them, and I may in a minute, I don't know that you keep track of how many times during the course of building your business you feel like giving up. It's probably, sometimes it's every day. Over a period of time it gets less and less and less. And there's certain reasons that you don't give up. Necessity is one of them. You know, there's nothing else I would do. I don't know what else to do. But if you haven't filed that down and you have the image of Joe's image of traveling around the world and buying mustard or whatever he was going to buy, and leaving somebody else to work the business, that's not likely. It may happen, you may get there, but I think owning a small business is probably like this. Your thought is, you know, I think I'm going to get a small business of my own, so I can just work part-time. And the reality of that is, that's part-time of a 24-hour day. So that's really 12 hours. You're basically committing yourself to 12 hours. So adaptability. And I got this picture as they were describing it. I just have this peaks and valleys kind of picture in my mind, the highs, the lows, the highs, the lows, the highs, the lows. But anyway, I wanted to ask him some more specific questions on your behalf, and then you can phrase them. But I want to know, Beth talked a lot about she's big on business plans. So I kind of want to hear from each one of them on their concept of business plans. I guess I'm of the perception that business plans are really, really important. And yet at some point in time, is there a time when a business plan just sort of becomes part of your mental process? It's no longer a written document that you prepare, and different people probably do it different ways, but I'd like to hear from them on how they go about business planning.
I've mentioned that the business I'm about to open, Sweet Bar Bakery, was the third business plan I wrote in say the last 10 years. I had gotten some software, and I'm sure somebody's going to know what it is because it's a pretty big company. I had written 2 business plans. They're based in Palo Alto, big surprise there. Yeah. And they had a sort of a food-based, or it was more, small business with a sort of food bent to it. And I worked on 2 different business plans. I had a powerhouse friend who'd helped other businesses get off the ground. The business plan was maybe a little cookie cutter, but I mean, I did the research, I found a location, I had a broker that wanted me in their building. I used to live in Los Angeles. My former business was down in LA, and this woman that was working with me was also in Los Angeles. We just weren't getting any traction up here. I lived here for 6 years, but I didn't know enough people to really find people that wanted to invest up here. And I also, the people that knew me and knew of me were in Southern California, and they were like, well, if he was opening a business here, I might be interested. Opportunity came along. I got a job as, I got an opportunity to be the executive chef at Just Desserts, which was a startup in the 1970s, corner bakery in Pacific Heights, and they grew and had numerous locations and had a wholesale business. And I sort of had to look at the two and say, you know what, a Monday through Friday job with a good salary and benefits and paid vacation versus the typical life of a chef and food entrepreneur, I'm gonna do this. And it was an amazing learning experience. And I'm really grateful for the 6 years I spent there. When it was time to write another business plan, I decided I just can't go that cookie cutter approach. What I did was I had friends that had opened restaurants in the meantime, and even though I was opening a bakery, they were kind enough to loan me their restaurant business plans, and I could glean what worked. And I did the research myself, and I projected my, each staff member's time and their hourly wage, and I worked with an accounting firm, and I hired a financial, sort of CFO for hire. And the experience of working on those cookie cutter business plans was a great learning experience. But it really came down to, people are going to invest in me, or I have to give my shout out right now, of course, to the VEDC, because I got an awesome SBA loan through them. But people are going to respond because they see the passion that you bring to it. You got to have the solid numbers, you got to have done your research. But the business plan that finally clicked was the one that sort of came a little more from the heart. It had all the details, it had all the research, but it was a little more authentically based. And I brought in there's a lot of images in it. There's pictures, not just something I pulled off the web, but food I had cooked, or maybe accolades I had received over the years, or a little drawing of children that did a tour of the bakery at Just Desserts. I really humanized it, and because my business is based in Oakland, and Oakland, if you don't get across the bay, it's not resurging, it's resurged. I mean, downtown Oakland is booming, and I'm so excited to be a part of this neighborhood, and it's also where I live. But I think that's what really spoke to people. Interestingly, one of the friends that loaned me their business plan, they have a thriving catering business, but a lot of their images in their business plan, which inspired me, looked a little foodie, looked a little pulled from Saveur magazine or something. And I thought, even if the quality of the photos aren't as good, I want to have a little, at the end of the thing, this is the web designer that designed this, graphic, and all these photos are photos from the chef's food. Because I really wanted to make it personal. I wanted anybody that read that plan, and of course I had an online version because most people don't even print it out anymore. I wanted them to really get a sense of who I was. And I was able to attract friends, strangers who had never met me, and of course, again, the SBA working with the VEDC. And I think that was really what made a difference. You're asking somebody to invest in you personally. They want to get a strong sense of who you are personally through your business plan as well.
Just to highlight, I want to point out something that struck me. He said, so you mean, I'm only making a statement, I'm not asking you to respond to that, but you actually mean by what you said that this magic business plan that I created, that I did online, doesn't have some elements to it that subsequent business plans have, and it sounds like you're pretty committed to. There's some emotion that needs to come through some things here. So okay, that's one perspective. Go ahead.
I got help writing my business plan. I had never written a business plan, although, well, I will take that back. I would write in sales. You always were goal-focused. I was very goal-focused, and I knew how to write a one-page summary for where I wanted my sales business to go every year. So I had some familiarity. But when I registered with San Francisco, went down to the City Hall to make my business legitimate, through there, and I know some people have talked about this, really take advantage of what the city has to offer. And it was when I was there, I found out about Renaissance Center and the San Francisco Small Business Development Center. And I've taken classes both at the Renaissance Center, but I really got a lot of help with the Small Business Development Center. And one other plug, SF Made was just getting started when I was down at the San Francisco City, and I got involved in SF Made, and that's been a big thing too. This all kind of plays in with what you've heard about leverage relationships or leverage connection. I got involved with SF Made. SF Made is on the back. I have their logo on the back of each of my cards. It's on my rack sign, and I talk about it when I do shows. People love the fact I always say, oh, I'm part of SF Made, because I don't print my cards in China, and that's a huge thing. And I've had store owners tell me they buy from me because of that. So use all the resources that the city has. When I first went to the Small Business Development Center, I met with Charles, and he's not here, but Charles he's like my little angel. I name my cards, one of my cards is named for Charles. I would meet with him pretty much on an every 2-week basis, and we would talk about the business plan. And it evolved, it took a while, it wasn't written quickly. And I would get really excited. I'd come in some weeks like, oh, guess what happened, blah-de-blah. And you know, we just kept working diligently through all of the steps on that business plan, and after a period of time, the financials were the hardest part for me, and still continue to be. And I was sitting in this room at that last session, which some of you were. I know I need some help in that respect, and I need to go into my business plan with that. But the business plan has helped me stay on course. I was able to identify that not only sell my product, but I wanted to license my artwork, and just having that written in my business plan, I did have an opportunity. I was at the New York Stationery Show in May, and I met with people walked by. And again, this goes back to that sales ability. Just, you have to be able to connect with people. I think it's when you can, like he was saying, when you show your enthusiasm, or when it comes through your passion, and when you can connect with someone and they feel it, that's how you can help do business. And I connected with these people. These two women were looking at my art on the wall, and they kept remarking about it, and I look at their tag, oh, you're from Seattle. I used to live in Seattle for 20 years. So that got us talking, and they have a company, cloth, they make quilting fabric. Loved my art, and they were looking for an artist to license to have that art on quilting fabric. So I stayed in touch with them, which was another thing I wanted to say. Follow up and follow through. Sorry, I'm getting off task.
No, stay there.
Okay.
Keep going.
Well, follow up and follow through is so important. When you connect with someone and you feel it, if there's something you can do, make sure you follow up and follow through. I followed up after the show, and I followed through. It was a month or so later, and I had just been out to Alden Lane Nursery, one of my accounts, where I had been asked, would I be part of a quilting weekend in September? Would I have like a little setup there? Which, of course, I said, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So I go back and send an email to the people in Seattle going, oh, by the way, I'm going to be part of this quilting weekend. You know, so again, a little bit more email conversation starts, and it was probably a week or two later, I received an email asking me to, they kept getting positive comments on my artwork, and would you be willing to do a submission for us? And this is what a submission means. So it was because of the follow-up and follow-through. I had told them I'd be in Seattle in August to see my kids after a trade show. So I met with them in August. I had my submission, and they were thankfully blown away with the help of my graphic designer, which is part of Grow a Team. That's another thing. But anyhow, I was able to sign a license with them. So part of the business plan where I wanted to license my art in addition to publish my own. It was in there. One other quick thing, I don't revise that as much, but on a plane a few weeks ago, I flew home to Indiana for a wedding, and I spent Houston to Indianapolis just brainstorming in my notebook because I had scheduled another follow-up and follow-through. I had an appointment with a publishing company in Indianapolis that does calendars. I want a calendar again. I used to have a calendar and I don't anymore. So I knew I had to come up with a different idea because they had told me, you know, we really don't need another inspirational calendar with watercolors on it. So I started brainstorming in my little notebook, and I got so excited because I just kept writing and writing and writing, and I came up with this idea for a creativity challenge calendar because I set my own creative challenges all the time, like I'm going to paint for an hour, and then it's amazing like what comes through. So anyhow, that was kind of like a business plan. It was sitting down with myself quietly because I'm in a plane for 2 hours, and it was amazing what came out of that notebook, which then helped that meeting, and it has since helped another. I've taken that same idea and I had a conversation with a publisher yesterday about turning it into a journal, but it's all follow up and follow through and keep focused on your plan and keep working your plan. Thanks.
Plan, do, plan, do, plan, do.
Yeah,
That's kind
exactly.
of her theme is basically she's creating a plan, doing, creating, doing, creating, doing, kind of, okay?
I took a very analytical approach to my business plan, and I did that for one reason. It was my money on the table. I had sold my house, and like I said earlier, I was all in. So my goal was to write a plan that would enable me to hold on to as much of my money as I possibly could on a daily basis. And so I take a very analytical approach to it. I did learn very quickly that I needed to be willing to make these alterations as I go forward, but I always did that based on the financials of my business. So I would look on a quarterly basis on sales in a particular area. If it wasn't working, we'd get rid of it. And then we needed to replace it with something. So in 3 years, I've grown the business. I'll give you a couple examples. We rolled out a salad bar, a self-service salad bar. We were making salads behind the line. You'd come in and say, I want a salad number 4 with chicken tossed. Finally figured out that if you made your salad, I gave you all the ingredients, it would reduce my payroll, would reduce my line, get you in and out, and it would probably increase my customer service because you're making your own salad. I can't screw that up. So rolled that out. That worked really well. Did the same thing with the soup bar. Very similar situation where we reduced our payroll overhead and increased our customer service. Keep in mind we're a lunch business, so we've got to get people in and out. And most recently, we rolled out a juice bar. And one of the things that I do on a planning basis is that when I roll out this new product line, for example, in my office, in my little cubie, in my hole, I have on my file cabinet, it says $300 in juice a day times 20 days, because we're Monday through Friday, times 20 days equals $6,000 a month equals rent. And the first month that I did that, our juice sales were $7,600 for the first month. So it's break it down to the basics. Don't make it so daunting. What do I need to do today? What do I need to do between 11 and 1? It comes down to that. The other thing that I would say about planning is do it, be analytical, be creative, make sure it's tied into your financials, but don't be so hard on yourselves. I would say, and the reality is that I've learned after now 3.5 years that it's not about what I do every single day anymore. There's good days and there's bad days. And I don't try not to beat myself up. Like Friday was a really bad day. And we had sales were way off, and I didn't even, I said, I'm not even going to look at the numbers today. And then I got home last night, and I was having a glass of wine. I was like, oh, no wonder, it's a 3-day weekend. It's Veterans Day. We're Monday through Friday. We mirror the corporate calendar. And so I just have learned from a planning standpoint, you're going to have disappointments, and you just need to take them. move forward, but write it down, be creative if you're creative, be analytical if you're analytical, but make sure it's tied back to your money. That's what a plan is all about. It's a roadmap to how to either make money, get money, or keep money. It's that simple. And in my case, it was how do I keep my money? So.
Two things I want to point out. I love it because I'm a financial kind of a guy. So but money's the fuel of business, right? I mean, basically, you're in business to maybe you're not in business to make a ton of money, but you're in business to make some money. You got to make some money to pay what you got to pay. I like the other thing he said, which is your office should be a whole. No, really. Do you realize the number of small business owners who go into business, they buy the most expensive business machines. If you go to their premises, whatever their premises is, they got this tricked out office. And you're thinking of all the other things that you could have spent that money for. And so I like Joe's theme that your office should be a whole. It should be where you do your stuff. You got signs up on the wall, whatever. But don't spend all your money in your office because you're not making any, unless you're an office, if you're a consultant or something that really needs a really nice office for your clients. But if you don't spend your money in places that don't generate money for you. Thank you. Beth?
That's such a great point. We don't have offices.
There you go.
Actually, my car is one of my best offices because I'm going from appointment to appointment, so it works out really great. I wanted to tap into Peg's calendar. Having a corporate calendar is really important. I don't like the financial side. I completely fail at it. Last year, January, I overpaid my employee bonuses by $52,000. That hurts my business. So I have a great, my
I'm going to go to work for you.
I know. My 6th employee was my controller. We brought her in. She doesn't generate sales, but she makes sure that we are profitable and we get our billing out and we get our collections. It's fabulous. So a couple points on that. Realize what you don't do well and bring someone in who can compliment you on that. Don't sit there and think you have to do everything for your business. Now, there's points where you just don't have any revenue and you have to do what you can to get that revenue happening. But once you can afford it, put in bringing in the right resources early rather than later, because you will suffer. Back to the calendar, we review, well, most importantly, the last day of every month, every time card has to be in, and our billing has to be out within 24 hours. That's done. And our billing is very complex. We have, let's say we all work together. We may each work 2 hours on the same account. We have to blend that into one rate, one line item on an invoice. There's no software program that does that. So we are working very hard to get our billing out. Then by the 5th of every month, we review our financials. We look at our balance sheet. We look at our P&L. All of my employees are incented if we are above our income estimates, what we projected, and we are below our expenses, they get a 15% management bonus. So guess what? They don't go to lunch. They don't take people out. They're the cheapest people in the world because they want to keep the expenses down. They also work really, really hard to sell new business. None of my employees are actual salespeople. None of them have ever sold. What they are is they're incented. And in fact, this goes to everyone in the room. Anybody who sells BPE business, and you bring it to me, we'll sell it, we'll close it, you get 20% for the first year of the business. So we have this great partner, Euroson Consulting. They do classification of products for importing. They got a call from a big software manufacturer over in Alameda, and they said, we can't do that, but BPE can. So fast forward, I wrote them a check for $8,000 yesterday for their commission for the first quarter of the business. And they'll get that for a year, and it's fabulous. Now my employees, they get the commission for the life of the account because they're still working and we want to keep them going. So also on the calendar, we have things like we bring our CPA in on a quarterly basis to review our books, so we're not just thinking we're doing great. We have marketing events that we do once a month to make sure that we're getting our name out there. We publish 4 benchmark reports. They're actually used by the industry. These people take these reports into their CEO and say, we're not doing this stuff. Listen to what BPE has to say. So all of our marketing events are on this calendar. We also have really important things like our employee birthdays, so that we take the day off for our employees and let them celebrate their day. We do some really fun stuff too. Conference calls. The password to each employee's conference call is their birthday. So now our clients, when they dial in to talk to the consultant, they say, oh, I remember your birthday's in March. It's so cool. And so we do things like that to keep our energy up. And that calendar really does drive us. So I really recommend that. And then to circle back around, don't live in an island. I have built a circle of advisors. Nobody's ever going to own my company but me. But I do have a circle of advisors that I meet with on a regular basis where I sit down and I share my numbers, and I share my goals, and I share my strategies, and they pick them apart, and they help me build better strategies for my company to succeed. So don't internalize everything. Reach outside of your company. There's a lot of people who want to see you succeed.
Okay, guys, it's your turn. So how about some questions?